If we look at that door and there's blood, flowing from the bottom of the door, what we would do is to make sure that everybody's okay in there. We would force entry because somebody could need medical attention in there or whatever. But once we're in there, we're going to what we call freeze the scene. So we would freeze everything, which means everything stops, everybody stays that's in there, and we don't search. If we need to get somebody medical attention or whatever, we do that. But we don't search that room until we have a warrant. So we freeze it, and then an investigator comes in with probable cause and writes a search warrant, and then we do our search and collection. And that's what we did at Temptations the other night. That's what we do on a lot of different issues. Even on the barricaded person that we had, that barricaded person was not actually in his home. He was in someone else's, he was in a home that wasn't, he lived there, but when you look at the records, it wasn't actually a first-party residence. So we got a search warrant for his body. We wrote a search warrant for him, and we went and got him. And he was a registered sex offender who had several other felony warrants out for his arrest as well. So we got a bad guy off the street, which we always like to do. So there's consent. A way to search is consent, and then there's a search warrant. And as I said, search warrants are based on probable cause. So if we see blood coming out of the door, and there's also exigent circumstances, and I'll give you an example of what that might be. Let's say the deputy shows up at someone's doorstep. Maybe a neighbor calls 911, maybe someone in the residence calls 911, and there's been a domestic disturbance, and we go and we knock on the door, and somebody opens the door, and believe this happens all the time. People open the door, and maybe it's a male or a female, whichever one, and they clearly have bodily injury on their face. Maybe it's blood, maybe it's a knot, maybe it's whatever. Maybe they're crying, maybe they're crawling to the door, and we ask them, we tell them who we are, and we say, we got a 911 call here, is everything okay? And then if they say, yeah, everything's fine, we don't need the police or whatever, well, guess what, we're not leaving. But because we have a responsibility of public safety, and we don't know what has occurred in there, we don't know what's going to occur in there after that. So the law gives us a right under the use of force for an exigent circumstance where we can go check the welfare of someone. So we come in. So let's say we're in there lawfully, because we have the exigent circumstance case law with us. So we go in and we find the people that are there, and we start figuring out what's going on. And let's say that there was a cutting or stabbing or something like that occurred in there, and we need to recover a knife, and we need to recover blood evidence and get medical attention and all those kinds of things. We're going to do the same tactic that we used when we saw blood coming in from the locked door. We're going to freeze the scene, and any evidence that we collect, we're going to get a search warrant. Now, we're going to make sure that it's safe, and we're going to secure the knife or the gun or whatever it is that caused the injury, and we're going to separate the parties, and we're going to get medical attention and all that, but we're going to freeze the scene, and we're going to write a search warrant for and you have to spell out in the warrant what you're looking for, where you're at, the description of the house, right down to the color of the brick, the trim, the grass, the cars in the driveway, everything. I mean, we describe it fully so that there is no mistake as to where you're going and what you're looking for. And then you have to put in your warrant what you're looking for, evidence of this particular offense. So those things, that's kind of, basic description of how we use the Fourth Amendment on a daily basis. The crime scene search unit, our crime scene search unit, we're 24-hour operations, so they have investigators who are assigned there. And they work everything from hit-and-run accidents to, and when I say work them, I mean they collect the evidence or take photographs, from hit-and-run accidents to a capital murder. I mean, they go the whole gamut. And they're there. And, just like the other night of the double homicide, just about the whole unit was there because they need the help. I've been involved in some multiple homicides where we spent 4 or 5 days just in the crime scene collecting evidence. And we didn't relinquish the scene until that 5th or 6th day. So we had, sometimes they're huge and you just got to process them. It's just kind of like eating an elephant one bite at a time. And that's how we process the crime scene, so you don't leave anything out. They diagram the scene. And when I say diagram, the first thing they'll do is a little rough sketch. But we also have laser equipment that can measure, the distance from here to that chair, here to there, and then it will also put it in a digital diagram format where it looks really, it's a nice drawing that, you can present in court, and it's absolutely accurate. So we have those types of things as well. We also have, we use APHIS, which probably some of y'all in the room know what APHIS is, but if you don't, I'll tell you what it is real quick. APHIS is an automated fingerprint identification system. It's a nationwide database for fingerprints. Everybody who is in law enforcement, my fingerprints, his fingerprints, Constable Burgess's fingerprints, everybody's fingerprints, when you come into law enforcement, they take them in. We're all in the database. So we're in there. And criminals are in there as well, because when you get arrested and those go into the APHIS database. So when we take fingerprints, that's what we compare them to. If someone hasn't been arrested, then we've got to develop information on a suspect to compare those fingerprints to that suspect and to what we located and what we found. So we have that. They're all certified in cell phone data, forensic data that they can recover. And cell phones are kind of tricky. You got to be really careful with them when you get them. If you turn them off or turn them on or take the battery out or do whatever, you think you're doing a good thing. I'm talking about law enforcement now. And we've learned over the years, you don't touch it. You put it in, and we have these boxes basically that, because people can wipe their phones now remotely. So once we get them and we secure them, we get them as quickly as we can, either into a bag where the Wi-Fi can't reach it, or into this box that, for lack of a better term, that protects it. And so that way people can't wipe it if they haven't already done that from there. So anyway, so they do cell phone stuff. If we're going to do a computer, whether it's a laptop or a hard drive or something, then we are going to partner with the DA's office. They have a criminal investigation division, and they have great equipment, and they help us with the forensics on computers. Now, we can recover emails and different stuff like that, but we generally let them do the computers. But to be honest with you, in today's society, it's all the phone, man. It is the phone. I mean, people have, iPads and laptops and stuff, but the majority of it, they have that phone with them all the time. But we have the capability of recovering evidence from there, whether it's photographs or emails or whatever it is. We can get those as well. The ME's office, once we process a scene, and whether that's, blood, saliva, any body fluid, fibers, touch DNA, whatever it is, we are very careful when we package those and we submit those into evidence. They go to the ME's office. The medical examiner's office they do our ballistic testing on firearms if we're trying to match a weapon to a particular offense that has occurred, where it's a homicide or an aggravated assault or some type of shooting. They do the ballistic testing for us. And they also do, like I said, the DNA identification. And there's a national database for DNA as well. And, we've solved a lot of cases on that. And the first thing that we normally do at, what the ME's office will do is enter that sample or the characteristics of that sample into the national database and see if we can get a hit on it or not. And I can tell you there have been numerous homicides, sexual assaults, a lot of crime that has been solved with that database. So it's a conglomeration of a whole lot of things that we do once we get out there, and they work in conjunction with the investigator who's out there. And I'll tell you a brief story of how the database, it's called CODIS, and it's Combined DNA Information System, and that's what CODIS stands for. So if you ever hear the word CODIS, that's kind of what it stands for, or that is what it stands for. But I'll tell you about, I got 10 minutes? Okay. I'll briefly tell you about kind of what got me into law enforcement. Ever since I was a small child, I always had an interest in law enforcement and doing that. I grew up in Southeast Texas, as you can tell from my northern Yankee accent, that I'm from Beaumont. It's a good place to be from. Anybody from Beaumont in here? No? Look at there. All right. Now, do you claim Beaumont, or do you claim Nederland or Port Neches or Groves or something like that, or is it Beaumont? Okay, good deal. Well, When I grew up in Beaumont, you had to be, and I think the standard is still the same, you had to be 22 years old to be a police officer in Beaumont. So I wanted to be a police officer in Beaumont. I hit 22, and I thought to myself, I think I want to live somewhere else. So, and nothing against Beaumont, but y'all live here now, so you understand what I'm saying. So anyway, there's nobody from Jefferson County here, I hope. But anyway, so, but when I was 20 years old, I got my very first jury summons. So I'm thinking, wow, I get to serve on a jury, or the possibility of serving on a jury. Well, little did I know that months before this, there was a major capital murder that happened in downtown Beaumont at Granada's Jury.